The Buddha offers the Dharma, offers the teaching on the adaptation of conditioned genesis connected with emptiness, a holy and supramundane truth. So begin with conditioned genesis, interbeing. And the first statement is, this is because that is. Societang Selae. Nhược thừa hữu tức bị hữu. So, in the beginning we see this and that. Two separate things. And that is the beginning. We see things outside of each other. You are outside of me. The Father is outside of the Son. That is what David Bohm described it as the explicit order. The explicit order. David Bohm. In this order, things are outside of each other. The sun is outside of the moon. The earth is outside of the sun. The father is outside of the daughter. The daughter is outside of the mother. Every object has a position, different position in space and time. They can be by themselves. They can be by themselves. And that is the first glance. But we begin with the teaching of interdependence, independent co-arising. It means a flower is made only of non-flower elements. All the non-flower elements come together in order to have a flower to arise. And the flower is there because all the non-flower elements are there. If the non-flower elements are not there, the flower cannot be. So the flower contains all the non-flower elements. But when we speak this is because that is, we might be caught in the idea that this should be there first in order for the other to be possible later. We can be caught in the frame of space and time. The this should be there first in order for the dad would come. Father should be there first in order the son to come. But we are going to see that this kind of thinking is not right thinking yet. Suppose we look at this sheet of paper, and we describe this side of the sheet of paper, the left side, recto, and this verso, left and right. This is because that is. Which comes first? Which comes first? The left and the right, they exist outside of each other or inside of each other. In the beginning, we think that the left cannot be the right. The left must be out of the right. The left must be the enemy of the right. The French people are going to vote this Sunday, and they are thinking in terms of right and left. And this is an opportunity for us to see into the true nature of right and left. And we find out that the left is made of the right, and vice versa. So we don't need the left to be there first in order for the right to come later. It's impossible. The left can never be alone. The left must be accompanied always with the right. And the left and the right manifest at the same time. It's like the above and the below. Now we don't have left, right anymore, but we have the above and the below. And the above and the below, they manifest at the same time. They lean on each other to be. So this and that are not separate things. So our notion that this and that are two separate things, you are wrong. The same thing is true with our mind, our perception. In our perception, there is the subject of perception, the subject of cognition, and the object of cognition. And we think that there is a consciousness existing separately inside of us and reaching out to the reality outside called nature. So subject and object, perceiver and perceived, are thought to be two separate entities. And many scientists still believe in that, are still caught in that dualistic thinking of subject and object. And so on. In fact, subject and object, they manifest at the same time in just 1 millisecond or less. So the other day we spoke of a perception. A perception can last just in one very short moment, a flash. Suppose this is a perception. And as soon as finish drawing the circle, we are caught. I got that this is a perception, and everything else is not perception. And there is things inside of perception, and there are things outside of perception. So anything you say, anything you do can be dangerous. Better not to say anything, not to do anything. The route, the path of speech is cut off. Because if you continue to say something, people continue to be caught. So we have to be skillful. The one who speaks has to be very skillful, using words and notions in such a way that can help the listeners not to be caught in notions and words. And the listeners have to be careful not to be caught in what is being said and what notion is offered. That is why skillfulness should be on both parts, the speaker and the listener. So this is only an example. This is a flash of consciousness, a perception. You conceive something and you suppose that there is a subject of cognition. Suppose you see a deer, and there should be the seer and the object, which is the deer. This is a sight. This moment of consciousness is called sight, la vue. And in that moment of consciousness, both object of cognition and subject of cognition manifest at the same time, like left and right. There cannot be a subject existing alone, and there cannot be an object existing alone. And this is very important in the teaching of the Buddha. If you believe that the subject of cognition and the object of cognitions are two separate entities that can exist separately, you are caught in what we call double grasping. Double grasping. So to believe that there is a consciousness in here, reaching now to understand nature out there, you are caught. You are not caught only in the notion of subject and object, but you are caught also in the notion of inside and outside. So to think that outside of our consciousness there is a world of reality or not, that is already a grasping, double grasping. Double grasping you are doubly caught. Như thủ là double prise. Please remember this sheet of paper is a skillful means. I think this is we can profit from it, but we should not be caught into the example. The left and the right lean on each other in order to manifest at the same time. And without this, that cannot be possible. That is how we should understand concerning the statement made by the Buddha. This is because that is. We understand in such a way that we do not discriminate against this and that. You cannot take this out of that. And in the David Bohm described it as the explicate the implicate order. That things are not really outside of each other, they are inside of each other. The Father is in the Son. If you study hard enough, you see that in every cell of the Son, there is the Father. And so, and the Father and the Son, they are born at the same time. Because you call him a father only when his son is born. Before the birth of his son, you cannot call him father. That is why Father and Son manifest at the same time. If there is no Father, there is no Son. There's another way of looking. Birth and death are the same. Without birth, no death is possible. And without death, birth is not possible. Birth should lean on death in order to manifest, and death should learn on birth in order to manifest. And birth and death is now. And to say that now is only life, death is down on the road later on, it's not true. And that kind of meditation helps us to remove fear. So we distinguish between subject and object within the framework of a perception. And we may call this part of the perception the subject, kiến phần, and the part, tướng phần, darsana, bhaga, and nimitta bhaga. And in Buddhist psychology, we may talk about a third part, which serves as the foundation of both. Là từ thể phần. Svabhava Bhaga. And for this example, we can liken it to the substance of the paper, the paste that is made with trees. That's the third. So with our discriminating mind of discrimination, we can distinguish three parts. The first part is the left, the second part is right, and the third part is paper, is the paste of paper. And you cannot take one out of the two others. In these three parts, you cannot take one or two out of the other. They inter-are. If I ask a Dharma teacher to come and take the left and go to Bordeaux, he cannot do that. He has to bring the right with him. and he has to bring the whole paper with him. So you cannot single out objects. You cannot single out subject and object. So although we distinguish this is the first part, the second part, the third part, but you cannot take them out of each other. They are inside of each other. But the word explicate order or implicate orders still are in caught because the notion of inside and outside still there. You say that things are outside of order of each other, that is wrong. But you say things are inside of each other, it's equally wrong. So you have to remove the notion of inside and outside in order to be truly free. Because inside and outside is another pair of opposites. Because when our consciousness manifests, we see something, and we see that this may be what we see. The reality outside may be different. You see? When we think like that, we are caught. We are caught in the notion of inside and outside. In physics, there are scientists who say that the ultimate reality, that is the foundation of everything, may be force fields. Lực trường. And they try to describe this. And basing on the force fields, everything manifests in terms of subject and object. And in Buddhist psychology, sometimes we use the word bija. Bija, seeds, chủng tử. Because according to Buddhist psychology, everything is a manifestation from a seed in our consciousness. There is a seed of anger somewhere in our consciousness. You cannot locate it. It cannot be located in time and space. But the seed of anger is somewhere there. Someone come and say something, suddenly the seed of anger is touched, and there is a mental formation called anger manifesting. So when anger manifests in your body and in your mind, it's called a formation. It's called a mental formation. Chitta samskara. That is energy, our anger. And that energy of anger comes from a seed of anger somewhere that you cannot locate. You cannot say that it is in this cell of your body or the other cell. But in Buddhism, not only our mental formations are manifested from seeds, but everything, like a flower, a pebble, a mountain, a galaxy, they are all manifested from seeds. And it may be interesting to compare the notion of bija to the notion of force fields. This seed is sometimes this kind of power. Công năng. Is a kind of energy. The kind of energy that has not manifested because it is only a seed. Only when the seed sprouts and become a formation that you can recognize it. So we have the formation called mental formation. But our body is also a formation. Kaya samskara. My hand is not a mental formation, it is a physical, it is a physiological formation. And this marker is not a mental formation, this marker is not a physiological formation, it is a physical formation. So according to the teaching of the school of Vijnanapada, everything, whether they are mental or physiological or physical, they are manifestation of a kind of force called bija or shakti. So the left and the right of the sheet of paper, they manifest on the base of the piece of paper. And that is only an example, please remember. And you cannot take them apart and designate them as independent objects. In the teaching of the Buddha, there is no reality outside of your perception. When your mind is pure, your mind is free from prejudices, preconceived ideas. When your mind is free from anger and hate and discrimination, and then the object of your mind reveals itself as the ultimate reality. When your mind is true mind, and then the object of your mind is suchness, tatata, the ultimate. It is nirvana. It is reality, the ultimate reality. So it depends on your mind. A deluded mind can only have a distorted image of reality. So in order to reach to the ultimate reality, you don't have to go outside of the mind. You purify the mind and then the ultimate will reveal itself. Otherwise, this is a distorted image of reality. And when your mind is a deluded mind, vọng tâm, chân tâm, vọng tâm. And this is a deluded reality, vọng cảnh. So when your mind is caught by duality, discrimination, you distinguish between mind and matter. Mind and matter as two separate entities. Mind can only be mind. Mind cannot be matter. Matter can only be matter, and matter cannot be mind. That is dual grasping. So this is based on the principle of identity. A cannot be B. A can only be A. In the beginning, we believe that matter and energy, they are two different things. But finally, we discover that matter is energy, and energy is matter. Matter can be transformed into energy, and energy can be transformed into the matter. And we have gone far enough to see that both matter and energy, they are free of birth and death. That's not bad at all. And that is the point of beginning, a point where we can begin science and Buddhism. It's a good ground to proceed on. Suppose we are caught in the duality of body and mind. Body and mind are two separate things. They are just the same thing. And we can be caught in our famous dual grasping also. Like left and right. Left and right lean on each other to manifest from the same ground. So mind and matter should be like that. Mind and matter are just two aspects of the same thing. Mind can be matter, matter can be mind. Sometimes it appears as mind, sometimes else it appears as matter. It's like an elementary particle. Sometimes it appears like a wave, sometimes it appears like a particle. Look at my hand. You can see the palm, and you can see the fist. The palm and the fist, they are not enemies. They are not outside of each other. They are both your hand. So what you describe, how can you describe that subatomic particle? Should you describe it as a wave? Should you describe as a particle? Should I describe my hand in terms of palm or fist? If you are caught by the two signs, to nimitta, and you say that a wave cannot be a particle, and a particle cannot be a wave. The palm cannot be the fist. But in reality, both belong to the hand. So you might think that matter and mind are two different things. But maybe matter and mind are like left and right. They are two aspects of the same thing, like the sheet of paper. And you cannot take them out of each other. They belong to the implicate order. Now, shall we talk about another kind of energy? The energy of anger, the energy of love, the energy of despair, the energy of hate and fear. Because they are real energies, because they are very powerful. Despair, the energy of despair can push someone to commit suicide or to kill another person. It's real energy, very strong. The destruction of the Twin Towers in New York was motivated by the energy of anger, the will to punish. That is the mind. But anger and fear and despair, they are energy, and scientists have to recognize them as energy. And you cannot destroy energy. You cannot say that when a person dies, there's nothing left. No. Nothing can die. You always continue. The problem is how you continue, more beautiful or less beautiful. And with the practice of looking deeply, practice of mindfulness, you can assure a better continuation. So we should ask the scientist, where you know that energy, you cannot destroy energy. You cannot make this energy disappear. So the love, the hate, the fear, the anger, the compassion produced in our daily life, where do they go? Can they be lost? No. They continue always. And we have to look. When I make a step like this, very mindful, very concentrated, I release the past, I release the future, I release my projects, I become a free person. Can you measure the degree of freedom in my step? And that freedom that I produce in walking can bring about joy and happiness. That can be nourishing and healing. Can you measure the degree of joy and healing in that step that I make? These are questions that can be addressed to scientists. And that energy of healing, of joy, of happiness will continue. And they will make the world a better place, a better reality. And that is the continuation. People use the term reincarnation, which is very misleading. Because in the word reincarnation, this is the term karn, which means flesh. There is a self, and when you die, the body disintegrates, and the soul, the self, continue and penetrate into another body. That is the notion of reincarnation. Re-enter into another body and continue to live. That is not the Buddhist way. The Buddhist way is there is no self. There is a continuation. There is a continuum, tương tục. samtati. But there is no self. You don't need a self in order to be reborn. The cloud can be reborn into the rain, but it does not need a self in order to be reborn. And the rain can be reborn as my tea. And when I drink my tea, later on, the tea can be reborn in a Dharma talk. So it continues. But you don't need a self, a soul in order for continuation, because nothing can be lost. Nothing dies. So these are a few questions to be addressed to our friends scientists. Because still a number of scientists believe that after the dissolution of this body, there will be nothing left. And that they violate the law. To say something like that, you violate the law of conversation of matter and energy. And mind is energy. And energy should be considered to be one aspect of reality. Because matter and energy are just two aspects of the mind. And to qualify matter as something inanimate, inert, is wrong. Because how can consciousness, how can intelligence emerge from something dead? But matter is not dead. Matter is very alive. In quantum physics, you know that atoms and subatomic particles, they are very active. You cannot call it la matière inerte. It's very alive. And you can sense intelligence and consciousness in every atom, in every electron.